So, continuing our thoughts from the last video, I had another realization. And it's really obvious if you've studied a lot of different perspectives on the human condition right now. A lot of people feel like we are living in some kind of matrix or patrix, where these systems and structures and institutions and paradigms are laid over top of our natural humanity and the natural ways of the earth in order to control us, to enslave us, to dumb us down. And a big part of that is using divide and conquer tactics. And you can divide people based on race, religion, politics, class, gender. All of this stuff is overlaid over our true divine selves, individually and collectively. And when we are unifying our consciousness together, like in a tribal way, like at festivals or in gatherings or rallies or clubs or what have you, when we are together in unified consciousness, the matrix has no power over us. So the matrix, one of the main functions of it, whether it's artificially created or human created, part of its function is to divide us. But so many people are becoming conscious that it's causing glitches in the matrix. It's causing lots of weird glitches. New creatures emerging, islands disappearing, people jumping timelines, things that we've always known to be a certain way suddenly changing, but yet many of us remember it a different way. It's because we jumped a timeline. This is happening because human consciousness is raising in frequency and uniting on a big enough level that it's causing the matrix to have little meltdowns, like when you need to reset your computer, which kind of ties in with what we said yesterday. So living in this matrix as this human supercomputer up to this point in your life has filled you with bookmarks and cookies and history, and you might have to constantly deal with spam and pop-ups and things on your computer when it's time to do a factory reset and just totally start fresh. Well, in your life, sometimes you need to factory reset yourself, and sometimes societies as a whole need to reset. So I want to encourage you again to work on clearing your history fearlessly, letting go or deleting your cookies, installing a pop-up blocker in your mind, which we used to call a bullshit radar. A pop-up blocker in your mind would be something that does not allow you to get disturbed when you're getting close to spirit, if you get what I mean. So like, say you're having conscious conversation with somebody and you're having amazing revelations, but yet someone wants to keep chatting with you online and you're trying to tell them that you're busy, but they just want to keep chatting and chatting, So you need to have a pop-up blocker in your mind that doesn't make them think you're not listening, but yet lets you continue your conscious conversation that's more important. Pop-up blockers in your mind, because the matrix needs to divide conscious people in order to prevent its own meltdown. So I want to encourage you spiritually to clean up your history files, delete your cookies, clean your cache, by dwelling on the things that are cluttering your consciousness, and as you do this, the matrix melts down and your paradigms dissolve, your oppression. You get a cosmic perspective and it makes you giggle, So, humanity is awakening beyond the divide and conquer tactics of this imposed matrix consciousness of systems and thoughts and paradigms and everything tied together to prevent you from being a fully embodied human. We don't have to fight the matrix. We don't have to dismantle the matrix, because with all the glitches we're seeing, one of the explanations is that enough people are being conscious that it's taking away their emotional power that they get from us, giving it back to us, taking it away from them, and they're just fizzling out for most people. And yet the skeletal frames are still there, reminding us, and we haven't been able to clear those out yet. But you don't have to fight this matrix. All you have to do is awaken and clear out all the junk from that operating system. The operating system is still there. We still function in a 3D reality. But you are not enslaved by it. You're conscious and you're sovereign and you can giggle at it. So the message of this video is that as more and more of us become conscious and fully embodied as authentic humans, the matrix is melting down. And it continually tries to fix itself, but there comes a time when you just need a whole fresh thing. And I don't know how long that'll take. If it'll take not much time or eons, I don't know. But I do know that as I have cleared out my history, cleared out my cookies, cleared out my cache, and edited the story of my life, which I work on every day and sometimes every night. As I've done these things, when thoughts come up, which I could label as PTSD, like you can't trust anyone, the institutions of society have targeted me for dismantlement, so I have to always watch my back, and I can't ever ask for help because then they'll think I'm inadequate and then my freedom will be endangered. All these kind of thoughts still come, but now I edit them. Just like a writer, like if my life and my consciousness was a story that was being dictated on Snapdragon, would I want to keep that or delete that? And I think I want to delete it and write it better. I want to write it more cool. So this is a conscious process. When I was homeless and being abused and I developed chronic PTSD, I would cuss quite a lot to express the intensity of my negativity and pain. And in one way it would make me feel better, and in another way it would make me feel further from myself. So I would split off. I would be Kiona, I would be Rebecca, I would be Ryder. One was a medicine woman, one was a regular person, one was allowed to be crazy. And it's taken a lot of healing to integrate those and to stop cussing and to actually struggle to express what I'm actually feeling instead of just taking that mental shortcut. Because, okay, this was a point I needed to make. With PTSD, when we've been threatened a lot emotionally, financially, physically, sexually, it triggers the amygdala in our brain, which is responsible for fight, flight, flee, or freeze. And all of that gets stored in your nervous system there, in your amygdala. It is stored there. And so anytime anything triggers it, anything that reminds you of what's stored there, it triggers fight, flight, flee, or freeze. And so part of healing, part of editing your life, is doing things that can move those memories, those thoughts, those feelings, those narratives from your amygdala to the frontal part of your brain, where you tell stories or lies, whatever the case may be. But anyway, you can rewrite history in a way, you know, and these are the things we need to explore and try to do. Because when you move the trauma from your amygdala to the frontal part of your brain, it loses its emotional charge. It's not in the part of the brain that does fight, flight, flee, or freeze. It's in the part of the brain that tells stories and assigns meaning and makes connections. And it's a long process to do that. You have to be dedicated to healing from it. And then you get into what's being called post-traumatic growth. Not post-traumatic stress disorder, but post-traumatic growth. It's not a syndrome, so I don't know if there's another letter on the end of it, but it's post-traumatic growth. And that's what I'm working on, editing my life. And part of editing your life is finding those files of what triggers you when you first felt this. What caused you to feel this way? Do you hate the smell, like I do, of hand-washed clothes dried outside? It reminds me, number one, of growing up poor, and number two, of being domestically abused in dirt-poor poverty. So I have to help that lose its emotional charge, because the way I cope is by using laundry machines with laundry soap that smells good, so that I avoid being triggered and remembering that. So healing from PTSD involves finding your triggers, finding when they started, and then finding a way to move that out of your heart chakra or your amygdala, move it into the frontal part of your brain, let your third eye scan through it, and edit it. If you don't need it anymore, delete it. You know, spring is coming, the air here smells nice. It could be a lovely thing to hang out clothes every day and have them dry outside. Although I do prefer soft clothes that smell good, whether I had trauma or not. You know? And part of what we're doing in this editing is making enough room in our consciousness so that we can actually love ourselves, each other, and the world and the cosmos. And if we're not all hung up on all these little pop-ups, these cookies, these histories, if we're not hung up on them, then we have CPU processing power to be our true divine selves, to laugh, to cook good food, to dance to good music, to go on awesome hikes, you know, to make everything be a prank or be fun or interesting or whatever, you know, just to be our true divine selves, our maturity of our eternity mixed with the innocence of, you know, pure baby spirits, because they are still at their factory settings, their default settings. They haven't had any pop-ups or history or cookies or cache data clogging up their circuits. And their nervous systems are very finely tuned and sensitive, so you don't want to make loud noises or real sudden moves, you know, or be rough with them, because that will traumatize them and make them shut down a little bit or have a bad reaction. So we're the same way. We're still sensitive. It's just all shut off and buried under trauma and filth of life, you know. And whenever you have filth, it's a good idea to put it in the compost bin, you know, scatter it around with leaves and soil and sticks, you know. So, you know, you can do things like expressing something artistically, like make a painting about it, or make a collage, a word collage, or just drum it out, you know. Somehow give it expression because it wants to be heard. Your true authentic self wants to be heard. It wants to be loved. It wants to be acknowledged. And that's why you feel discomfort and suffering and unhappiness, is because your soul is crying for recognition and embodiment in this life. You know, so let your higher self take the wheel and be the captain of the ship for a while. And the way you do that is by blocking pop-ups, like people who interrupt you and things that distract you from your truth and from what's true in this moment and now. You meditate on your paradigms, your memories, your difficulties like PTSD, depression, anxiety, being suicidal, you know, feeling like a failure, being hopeless, or whatever it is, and follow it to its root, because that is something that is designed to divide you from your true power and from other people. Same thing with racism, classism, sexism, etc. You know, you just, you know, delete this stuff or move it to the frontal part of your brain and do something useful with it, because then that will free up space so that we can actually be creative. I can tell you personally that I'm forming a foundation. I've been working on it for years as I prepare other things in my life. A foundation, and it has many aspects to it, many projects and programs and beneficiaries. But what I want to say to you now is, we know that we need capital, we need vision, and we need direct action. And we need people who are actually what they say they are. You know, on profiles, you do your little biography of your ideal self, unless you're a real down-to-earth person, which a lot of my friends are. But a lot of people put their ideal self. Well, we need you to actually show up and be fully present as your ideal self. And we're looking at 3 income streams, legal income streams: real estate, cannabis, and vending. And we need people to do those things with us, to be an activist building crew who goes around building tiny houses and helping with infrastructure on intentional communities, who grow and can make CBD products, things that are legal, cannabis, and vending conscious products or zines or handmade art from our network, you know. So I'm encouraging you to edit your life, not only for yourself personally, but also collectively, because in order to manifest a new world, we need to all be able to step up and work together on the level of World War II, you know? And I know there's a lot of controversial information about that, but I mean the people who all work together with their victory gardens and hand making their clothes and doing everything, you know, to be unified and survive and make it through and win. So, but this is the love revolution, okay? So the more conscious we are and the more bonded we are in tribal unity, neo-tribal unity, the more the matrix melts down. And as it melts down, it's all the structures still exist, but our consciousness is not enslaved. We look at it consciously with God eyes, you know, and that is free. It's freedom. It's liberating. But my point is, we need to be able to work together to create the alternatives for everyone to step into. So, do your part today to help the matrix melt down. Okay? The love revolution begins within. And we do that by editing our lives and then resetting to the factory settings of source. And then we get together and we do these things. We buy real estate and fix it up and flip houses and, invest in conscious cannabis that's legal and send out activists and artist crews to do vending at consciousness festivals and events like that, where we're not profit driven, we're people driven, people power, peaceful people power, with no particular agenda except that there is strength in unity, psychedelic strength. Because if we are awake and we are conscious, then when our energy fields mingle together, it'll amplify whoever and whatever we are in quantum waves that go out and touch and affect everything around us. And we really can create a vast potential of things, different businesses, different art projects, community garden, community house, radio station, documentary film company, festival poi dancing crew, drum makers. Like anything in the world is possible, But if you can't function, then how are you going to do it? I haven't been able to function for a few years compared to what I want to be doing. But now we're getting to the point where towards the end of this year, we should be launching the next phase of our plan. We have a 5-year plan. So I feel like it could happen a lot faster than that, but it has to happen by 5 years. Really, my goal is 2020. The year 2020, I want everything to be cool, at least for a little while in life. So I'm going to wrap it up for now. I just want you to know that there are many of us, conscious people who need to unify in some kind of neo-tribal way, and bring a fresh wave of consciousness that frees people from the ruts that they're stuck in. Rainbow Family's done that, Grateful Dead's done that, the hippies in the 60s did that. People have come through and brought waves of renaissance and revolution. So I hope that you are blessed and blissed today. Remember to be beautiful, be free, and be true to yourself. And I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.